Chapter 11. If this is Wednesday, it must be a Venusian. James Lilly stood on his lawn surrounded by reporters from Charleston and hunting newspapers, Sheriff George Johnson and his wife, and a host of others. Hundreds of automobiles lined up on the Camp Conley Road, dark and silent except for the glows of cigarettes. Other cars cruised in slow streams along the rutted roads of the TNT area to the north. "It's just about that time," Jim Lilly announced, glancing at his watch. It was exactly 8:30 p.m. They come over every night about now. Horns suddenly began to bleat, and excited shouts echoed through the trees. "Right on time," Lilly chuckled. "You can set your watch by 'em." "My God, what is it?" A reporter and novice UFO watcher cried out as a brilliant white light slowly glided into view. It arched gracefully overhead about 100 feet above the trees. Car doors slammed up and down the road as families scrambled to get out of their vehicles to watch. Newsmen floundered with their expensive cameras. "What in the hell is the matter with this? The shutter didn't trip." The light passed slowly toward Point Pleasant, the ground below lighting up in its glow as it passed. "Where's that guy Keel?" someone asked. "He's probably up in there riding in that damn thing," someone else answered. A light plane suddenly circled over the TNT area, all its lights ablaze. "Here comes Doc Shaw again," Jim Lilly laughed. Who does he think he's fooling? But the voices were crying out in the dark. "There goes another one." The plane cut its engine for a moment and glided. George Johnson turned to his wife. "Well, you wanted to see a UFO." "It was like seeing a ghost," she shuddered. The air was filled with the sounds of auto engines grinding away impotently and drivers snarling and cussing because their cars wouldn't start. The light traveled on to the ravine that passed behind North Park Road, then it dipped down and moved low along the bottom of the ravine. Betty Kelly, 13, looked out the kitchen window of the Kelly house and screamed, "Ma, it's back!" The glowing thing was appearing nightly behind the Kelly home. It seemed to settle in their backyard at times, and the glow faded slightly so they could see a definite object. They even thought they saw a triangular doorway in it and what appeared to be a frosted glass window. Their neighbors had all been watching too, but had wisely avoided publicity. They didn't want their street to become another Camp Conley Road or TNT area. When Betty cried out, Bill Kelly, her father, grumbled in the living room. He was an electronics engineer, and he had just taken the back off of the family's brand new color TV set. The set had blown out the night before when the object had paid a visit. "Somebody should do something about these things," he complained. The object began to glow more intensely, and then it vanished. "Where did it go?" Miss Kelly asked her daughter. "I don't know. It just went." She started to cry. She would be so nervous and upset that she wouldn't want to go to school the next day. The phone rang. Bill Kelly looked at it as if it were a snake. He picked it up slowly, listened, and scowled, then replaced the receiver. His wife glanced at him expectantly. "Another one of those calls. Beep, beep, beep." He nodded. On top of a hill east of Point Pleasant, Mary Hire and I stood by our cars looking down at the village. "Where did it go, John?" I was straining my eyesight through a cheap telescope. "I think it went down that ravine by North Park, but I can't see it now." At least it was right on schedule. Flickering red and green lights suddenly appeared. "A plane," I noted. "Probably Dr. Shaw. He's told me he's been spooking the people at the TNT area." It's hard to mistake an airplane for one of those UFO lights. "Look!" she called out sharply. "Something is following that plane." A few hundred feet behind the plane, I could see a large black object, almost as big as the plane itself, but completely without lights. "Mothman! Is it Mothman?" I fumbled with my telescope. It's very difficult to zero in on an object in the sky with a handheld telescope. I couldn't even locate the plane. The plane crossed the river and headed for the Gallipolis airport. The thing following him was quickly lost in the black sky. We returned to Mary Hyer's office and found all the phones ringing. People were seeing flying objects all up and down the valley. Some had probably just seen the good doctor's nocturnal sortie, but others described what sounded like genuine UFOs. That was April 5th, 1967, a Wednesday. I had collected and analyzed some 700 UFO reports from 1966 and discovered that the greatest number of sightings, 20%, took place on Wednesdays. I called this the Wednesday phenomenon. The events of 1967 conform to this curious pattern, as I have the sightings of later flaps. The major events of October 73 were concentrated around Wednesdays, particularly Wednesday, October 17th. So here was another curious contradiction. The entities professed to be ignorant of our time frame, yet the objects managed to fly to a rigid schedule that could be measured by our clocks and calendars. When I interviewed attorney Robert Wright in Sistersville, West Virginia, he told me the things have turned up every Wednesday throughout the summer of 1996, like clockwork. No one except the U.S. Air Force had attempted even a superficial statistical analysis of UFO sightings before. So my findings were greeted with howls of derision by the scientists who posed as experts on the phenomenon. Then Dr. David Saunders of Colorado University fed several thousand sightings into a computer, and he found the Wednesday phenomenon remained stable. That day produced the largest number of sightings, well beyond the laws of chances and averages. In March 1967, Ralph Jarrett talked me into violating my low-profile policy, and I appeared with him on the Jackie Oberlinger show on WCHS-TV in Charleston. In the course of our discussion, I mentioned that the best time to see a UFO was at 10 p.m. on a Wednesday. Mrs. Oberlinger, a vivacious blonde lady and very much a local celebrity, took me at my word. On Wednesday, March 29th, she and a group of her friends gathered in her backyard in Charleston, and sure enough, at exactly 10 p.m., 3 globes of brilliant white light passed directly overhead in a V formation. The Wednesday phenomenon works. I've been studying it for years, and I still can't say why it works. Researchers in other parts of the world have now followed my example and found similar time patterns in the sightings in their own countries. The table below is a breakdown of sightings recorded in 1950 as analyzed by Saunders, United States, Ballester, Orlando, Spain, Bonaparte, Belgium. Distribution of UFO reports 1950. Day, Sunday, United States 40, Spain 6, Belgium 23. In total, 69%, 9.8. Monday, U.S., 53, Spain 8, Belgium 42, total 103. Percentage 14.7. Tuesday, 44, Spain 15, Belgium 43, total 102. Percent 14.6. Wednesday, United States 57, Spain 19, Belgium 56, total 132, percent 18.8. Thursday, United States 51, Spain 10, Belgium 55, total 116, percent 16.5. Friday, U.S. 40, Spain 12, Belgium 38, total 90, percent 12.8. Saturday, United States 32, Spain 13, Belgium 44, total 89, percent 12.7. In total, United States 317, Spain 83, Belgium 301, in total 701, 100%, 99.9. Soon after arriving in Point Pleasant and getting a handle on the scope of the situation, I phoned the Lockburn Air Force Base in Ohio and outlined what was happening to a Lieutenant Hoffman, the base UFO officer. He was very polite, but he was also disinterested, and it was clear the Air Force was not going to launch any kind of investigation. Perhaps an investigation was already underway. As I wandered around Main Street in early April, I noticed a surprising number of strangers who didn't seem to fit in. They had the indelible look of federal officers, conservative ties, square clothes, recent haircuts. There must have been 15 or 20 of them. I saw them in the local restaurants and drugstores, everywhere. "Is there a convention in town?" I asked Mary Hire. "So you noticed them too?" she smiled. "Everybody's been asking me about them, but so far I haven't found a thing." I decided to trap one of them into a conversation, but they all vanished before I could do so. One night, Roger Scarberry, Steve Mallett, and myself were driving around the TNT area when we came upon a large black Cadillac parked in the shadows. I slammed on the brakes, got out of our car, and walked over to the other vehicle. A well-dressed, distinguished-looking man was sitting behind the wheel, holding a microphone in his hand. I tried to engage him in conversation, but he would only grunt. Obviously, he wanted to be left alone. I never saw him again. My days were spent tracking down witnesses, and in early evening I would cruise through the TNT area before going to 5 Mile Creek Road for skywatches that usually lasted until 3 or 4 a.m. Then I would drive back to Point Pleasant, cross the rickety old Silver Bridge into Ohio, and grab a few hours of sleep at the Blue Fountain. 3 or 4 miles south of my secret hilltop, there was a heavily forested ridge. The object with the reddish window, which Mary and I had seen on our first night, seemed to have come from there. Each night, at exactly 10 p.m., a bright red glow would appear on that ridge, as if someone had turned on a powerful light. Thinking there might be a house there, or a road, and we were watching auto tail lights, I returned in the daylight, but found it would have been a very long hike to reach it. No buildings were visible there. I drove through the roads in the chief cornstalk hunting grounds, hoping to find a road up that particular ridge, but apparently it was inaccessible. On Thursday, April 6th, Mary Hire accompanied me to 5 Mile Creek Road, and we watched as the lights came on right on schedule. Suddenly we saw an identical type light behind the trees north of our position in the very spot where I had seen the glowing disk descend. I knew there were no houses or roads in that direction. We divided our attention between the two lights. Both seemed to be moving through the trees very slowly. I got out of the car with my flashlight and flashed it 3 times in the direction of the southern ridge. An instant later, there were 3 extremely bright flashes. Mary nearly jumped out of her skin. "They answered you," she declared. The red light rose upward until it was 100 feet or so above the trees. Then it went out, as if someone had turned off a switch. The light in the north dipped down behind the trees and disappeared. Affidavit. To whom it may concern, I, Mrs. Mary Hire, of 219 6th Street, Point Pleasant, West Virginia, a reporter of Athens, Ohio Messenger, hereby swear that I was present at the following event and personally witnessed it as described. On the evening of April 6, 1967, I accompanied Mr. John A. Keel of New York City to an isolated hilltop on 5 Mile Creek Road, south of Gallipolis Ferry, West Virginia. Shortly after 11 p.m., I observed a pale red object of undetermined size moving in a controlled manner slightly above treetop level over a hill about 500 yards south of our position. There were no houses or roads on that hill. The object appeared to move cautiously and slowly through the sky to the far end of the sloping field, the light flickering on and off in an irregular pattern. As the object drew closer, Mr. Keel got out of the car and flashed a powerful flashlight directly at it 3 times. The object immediately returned the signal by flashing a brilliant white light 3 times. Then it rose upward, and the pale red light went out completely. State of West Virginia, County of Mason, to wit, signed Mary Hyer. This day personally appeared before me in my office, county, and state. Mary Hyer, known to me personally, and acknowledged the above statement to be true, and that she personally signed her signature in my presence. Given under my hand this 21st day of June, 1967. My commission expires June 12, 77. Howard Schultz, Notary Public. Mrs. Mabel McDaniel and 2 other women went to the hill with me the following night. About 10:15, the usual reddish glow appeared on the southern hill. Then a second one popped up a short distance from the first. I flashed my light at them, but nothing happened. So I climbed a fence and walked into a field to try to get a closer look. The 2 objects slowly came together. As I crossed the field, I suddenly noticed something new. A pale bluish ball of light hovering high in the trees of an orchard behind the nearby farmhouse. The light moved about from tree to tree as though it was following my movements. I flashed my light at it, and it flared a dazzling brilliance, dimmed, and vanished. Simultaneously, the lights on the southern ridge grew brighter for a moment, and then also went out. I slowly made my way back across the field in the dark, climbed the fence, and returned to Mrs. McDaniel's car. I was surprised to find all 3 women in a very frightened state. "I think we better leave," Miss McDaniel said nervously. They drove off quickly. 5 minutes later, as I sat alone in my car, the reddish glow flared up again on the ridge. For the first time, it changed color, from red to a glaring white, and rose slowly upwards, bobbing like a yo-yo toward the river in the west. Apparently, some boatmen on the river saw the object also, for a bright searchlight suddenly shot up from behind the hills, aimed directly at the luminous thing. When the searchlight appeared, the object halted in mid-flight, dropped downward, and went out. The searchlight continued to scan the sky. The next day, I talked with Miss McDaniel and told her what I had seen. "Too bad you didn't stick around," I remarked. "We were pretty scared," she began. You'll probably think we were being silly." "Did that blue light frighten you?" "It wasn't the light," she said hesitantly. "We saw that. Then we saw a tall man in the field. We all saw him climb over the fence and cross behind our car. We thought it was you coming back. Then your flashlight went on way out in the field, and we knew it wasn't you. We ran the windows up and locked the doors and waited for you to come back." I certainly hadn't seen anyone else in the field. Had their eyes been playing tricks? Or were there phantoms on that hilltop? That weekend, I drove into Ohio to check out so many weird events happening there. One of my all-time favorites happened in the little village of Duncan Falls. Here is the verbatim entry from my journal. Sometime in late October 1966, witness does not remember exact date, Mr. Leonard Shy Elmore, 72, of Duncan Falls, Ohio, was taking a stroll around 4 a.m. when he encountered a strange building which frightened him badly. Like many elderly people, Mr. Elmore does not sleep well and often takes long walks late at night. On this particular morning, he was walking along a road 2 blocks from his home when he saw a strange L-shaped building that looked like a galvanized iron shed, sitting in the middle of a large field. Since he had never noticed the shed before, he walked closer to take a better look. Something about it frightened him. Later, he could not explain why it scared him, and he turned away and started to hurry away. Although it was dark and he could see no windows or doors in the shed, he claims that he distinctly heard a normal male voice from it. "Don't run. Don't run," the voice called. "I didn't exactly run," Mr. Elmore told me, "but I walked pretty fast." He hurried home and got his rifle and returned to the site. To his astonishment, the shed was gone. This incident upset him very much, and according to his wife, he was a nervous wreck for several days afterwards. He decided to call the sheriff and report what he had seen. The sheriff promised to come out and take a look, but never did. Mr. Elmore told me his story in a direct manner without embellishments or wandering speculations. No men in black came around to bother Mr. Elmore. I was the first reporter to talk to him. When he showed me the field, I was perturbed to find that it was right next to the Duncan Falls Elementary School. An unusual number of sightings and 40 events seemed to be concentrated around schools, and the largest percentage of witnesses consisted of children between the ages of 7 and 18. Another statistical oddity is that the majority of adults who have claimed their autos were pursued by UFOs or monsters are school teachers, especially teachers specializing in abnormal children, the very bright, or the mentally deficient. This is why I was so interested in the West Virginia census takers, who are mainly concerned about the number and ages of children living in Ohio Valley.